Hello everyone, I'm a freelance visual effects artist, and in my channel I talk about visual effects and design. In this tutorial series, I'm gonna walk you through my Blender asset creation process, guiding you to create this space elevator turntable by the end. Every few weeks, I'm gonna drop a new episode. In the second part, we'll use some modifier to create some detailed meshes for this space elevator. If you didn't see the first part, check out part 1 where I explained how to use Blueprint to create a blockout. As usual, there will be 3D files in the show notes to help you along. So let's get started. Okay, so we already have the complete blockout, I would say, which gives us like an overview how the whole look should be. And now let's do some more detailed mesh. Let's first start with the cabin. So the idea of each cabin is that it has like a core, which is the real cabin, and then it has like two different layers on top of it to protect the core. And the inspiration how these two layer of protection of the core would be first the truss girder. Sorry for my pronunciation; it's a very difficult words for me to pronounce. The first one is more like a technical traditional steel truss girder construction around it. And the second layer, which is more inside, has kind of 3D printed look and going to be more fine and more organic. The idea sounds a little bit difficult, but in Blender, we're going to use or take advantage of the modifier so we can quickly create some technical detail. Let's start with the first layer, and the only modifier we're gonna need is the wireframe modifier. What it actually does is it takes the edges and creates kind of a mesh around the edges, right? So depending where you're having the edges, that's gonna determine how the wireframe look would be. And I got the feeling somehow here it's a little bit too fine, so I gonna correct the edges in this mesh. And if I want to join, for example, these two vertices, I just tap double G. And it's a very common mistake because like people join the vertices and then there are like two vertices at one spot. But it looks okay, but in the 3D modeling world, it's definitely a very rough mistake. So you definitely need to join them. How to join them? So you press A and right mouse click, merge vertices by distance. And because it's a function that I use every 2 minutes, I mostly add it to my quick favorites. So I click on it with the right mouse button and add it to quick favorites. Because I already have it, it shows me remove from quick favorites, right? Q by distance. All right. Here's the same command, A Q by distance, because once I joined them, you can proof check it because when you click on the vertices and shake it, you can see that there are many vertices at the same spots, and overlapping vertices or overlapping edges or polygons is a no-go in the 3D. So press A, Q by distance to join them all. I already told you that I'm gonna have this kind of truss girder look. So it has this kind of zigzag movement, right? And let's imitate that because when you turn on the wireframe, somehow this part, it doesn't feel very connected on, or it looks like very fragile, like it's gonna hit something, gonna break. So let's do some zigzag lines in between. Never forget to join the vertices by clicking on by distance merge vertices. And sometimes you don't want to add edge loop, so you can click on two vertices, right? And click on J, and that would connect these two. All right. I do think the grids or the beams are a little bit too thick. It's good to use a modifier because you do have the flexibility to change anything you want to change. So now I want to create the second inner shell, and I can just click on the shell that I just created, hit Shift D, copy it, and you can already see that the array modifier is still in place. And let me delete this array modifier by hitting the cross. And now I want to scale it. And by hitting S, you can see that the scaling is going from the origin. And I want to change the origin to the center of this object, right? The origin is this orange dot here. And I want to apply the mirror modifier first, and then hit F3 origin to geometry. Maybe add it to your quick favorites because it's just a function that's in use all the time, right? Origin to geometry. And now the origin is in the center of this shell. And I'm gonna scale it. And you can see that we have two shells of the same kind. I want to isolate it by hitting Shift H. It's time to change this shell into this kind of more 3D printed organic look. And by doing that, we can just add one more modifier. It's called subdivision surface. And what this modifier does is adding more polygons into the existing mesh. So the higher number there is, the smoother the mesh gonna be. But now actually that's not the look that I want to achieve. I want to arrange the order of these two modifiers by pushing the subdivision surface to the top. And that is actually the right order that I want to have. And of course, because we have modifier, we are free to adjust the number. Now these two shells are done. And I want to create the cabin. And because the cabin is underneath these two shells, it can be even easier, right? Let me create a cylinder. Rotate by 90 degrees. And now let's array it around the cross again. So the same step like before. First, click on Control A to change the scale value to 1. And I want to have the origin to the position of the rotation axis. And then I'm gonna add array modifier. It's just repetition. And we don't have relative offsets. We have object offsets. And click on the empty and number 3. And for the inner cabin would be the same. The reason I'm not joining the meshes is because like each mesh right now has like different modifier and it's gonna just mess up all the modifier because every time when you join object, it's gonna copy or it's gonna take the modifier of the original object, right? The cabin already has all the components that it needs, and now we just need to repeat the modifier array to array everything around the core. It's the same principle. Make sure that all the objects have the scale on 1. If that's not the case, click on Control A and click on Scale. And also make sure that the rotation is on 0 with all the objects that you want to array. And if that's not the case, click on Control A and click on Rotation. And in my case, let me check. All right. And also make sure that the origin is at the spots of the rotation axis. If that's not aligned, something strange is gonna happen with the array modifier. And now, time for array. Object offsets, click on the rotation axis, select the right amount. I can see the sides of the shaft, and I want to make it look smoother. So let me select the object, shade smooth, the same with the other object. And when you do so, somehow there's this kind of weird shadow happening, and that's not correct. So let me add one modifier. It's called edge splits to correct this problem. And if I don't want to repeat this modifier over and over again, I can also copy the modifier. So let me select the 3 objects where I want to copy, paste the same modifier and select the objects, Control L, copy modifier. So that's a little bit faster. And we don't have to add the modifier over and over again. Now I want to create a detailed mesh of the inner shaft because it's still the block out. And let me add one cylinder. And maybe only have 10 faces, get it down. And what I want to do now is to delete everything and create just one panel. So deselect the faces that I want to have, delete everything. And now I just want to create one module first and then multiply it by using the array modifier. The first modifier that I'm going to add is wireframe. And now I want to array and multiply it. First, I need to add one rotation axis. And afterwards, I need to make sure that the origin of the panel is at the same spots of the rotation axis. And also the scale should be at 1 like before. And now I'm ready for arraying. And in the next step, I can add one more array. But this time, it's not an object array, it's a relative offsets. And I think I need to have it in the Z direction. So now we have the shafts. Like the cabin, I also want to add more complexity by adding one more shaft inside the shafts. So let me isolate it by hitting Shift H, hide one array modifier because it's just too confusing to see everything. Go to the top view, and I'm gonna go into the edit mode so I just see one module and hit Shift D, copy it, and maybe make it a little bit smaller and hit T so I can separate this thing. And by separating it, I can add another modifier to change the shape, and gonna be like before the subdivision surface. And you can play around with the order, to be honest, but I like it to be at the top before the wireframe. So now let's show the array modifier again. And here the same. And here maybe I want to change the distance of the array so it doesn't look way too dense. So at the end, you cannot see anything anymore. And yeah, so that's making the shaft a little bit more complex. There's something more happening inside. That's about it of the modeling part of the elevator. We're going to continue with texturing and adding some more assets which we can download from the internet. It's time for our assignments. Hopefully by now you have finished your blockouts and are ready to move on to the next step by adding details using Modifier. I've included some project files that you can download using the link in the description below. After that, I want you to take your homework blockout you created from episode 1 and start building on it by using your own modifier. Here are a few things to keep in mind as you work. First, try using modifiers to bring structure and complexity to your model, and play around with settings like thickness, subdivision, or density. Small changes can make a big difference. Also, do not forget to experiment with the order of your modifier. Changing the stack can completely transform the results, so take some time to explore different combinations. And I really encourage you to start creating your own unique details by pushing these settings and trying things out. This is where your designs start to get its personality. As usual, if you like feedback on your assignment, feel free to send it to me as a Blender file. I would love to see what you're working on, and I'll also be selecting a few submissions to showcase in upcoming videos so others can learn from your process too. To upload your file, just use the link in the description. That's it for today. Next time, we're gonna texture our space elevator. In the meantime, check out this video where I explain the design process of the space elevator and share my sources of inspiration. And finally, if you're enjoying the content, give me a thumbs up and follow my channel to stay updated. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.